A young movie house proprietor goes on a killing spree and becomes the best indie filmmaker in the process. We watched All About Evil, sorta, kinda starring the woman who played Elvira, today on Nothing Spookies.
Welcome back, however you wish to self-identify, to Nothing Spookies! Where we ask the question, the fright is this. It's the podcast where we go through an actor's filmography and choose the most anonymous and culturally untalked about movies that they've made, and decide whether or not they've got a certain something, or if they're just a whole lot of nothing. I'm Kaz Lesgard.
You're damn right you are, and I'm Jameson Rafter.
And today, we're continuing 2 months of Halloween, an ode to Scream Queens. And today, we're talking about a different kind of Scream Queen. The two ladies we've talked about before, and the one that we still have the docket that we haven't recorded that episode yet, they're kind of our standard final girl type Scream Queens. Yeah. They survive to the end of the movie, and the monster tries to kill them.
Yeah, you know, like, in thinking about when we were, like, the Scream Queens idea for Halloween was my idea, and I was like, okay, well, there's some ones that we absolutely need to hit. Jamie Lee Curtis. The next episode one is one that we've been dying to get around to for years.
Absolutely, you can probably guess, but we won't reveal it here.
But then I just think to myself, like, who else? When I'm thinking of people like Neve Campbell or who else? Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Leanna
Quigley. It's like, they don't really have the kind of career I'm that interested in talking about. Like,
excellent pull on Leanna Quigley.
Who's like the legit Scream Queen of the bunch, but she hasn't really had much of her career. And like Neve Campbell had like a popular TV show and then a popular horror franchise.
Here's the thing about, like, the definition of Scream Queen. Like, obviously, Neve Campbell has that title for a reason. The movie franchise she's in is literally called Scream. But here's the thing. You look at Neve Campbell's filmography. Here are the horror movies she starred in. Scream, Scream 2, The Craft, Scream 3, Scream 4, and Scream 5. Or Scream. That's it. That's
her pedigree.
That's the entirety of the horror films that she's been in. She doesn't have a lesser-known horror film, so we can't really cover her. Speaking of Jamie Lee Curtis, we want to go back to her mother, Janet Leigh, star of Psycho, one of the original Scream Queens, possibly the most famous cinematic scream of all time in the shower. She really doesn't have any horror movies either. She kind of starred in like this cult favorite horror movie called Night of the Lepus, which is about giant rabbits. But like,
the Red Letter Media guys.
The Red Letter Media guys. But again, that's a little too well known for us. It doesn't really like fall under the category. But you really thought out of the box on this one, and I completely agree with you. This is absolutely a Scream Queen that we are talking about today. It's just like of a different sort of metal.
Different caliber, I'd say.
A different caliber.
I mean, I would say, like, the themes for our podcast, whenever we're covering an actor, should probably cover, like, Hollywood legends, beloved character actors, and undeniable pop culture icons. And this one is absolutely in that
absolutely right. In the books, absolutely. You obviously know who we're talking about because it's the title of the podcast episode. But our subject today is the great Cassandra Peterson, better known to the world as Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. And Jameson, we're in a very unique position right now.
Oh, yeah?
And I just feel that we need to acknowledge and take advantage of the position that we're in right now with this episode, because we truly will never get this opportunity again. By covering Cassandra Peterson, we more or less have a free pass whenever we want during this episode to discuss in detail just how rockin' her tits are.
Yeah.
If we were talking about...
My plan worked!
If we were talking about anyone else, it would be derogatory, it would be misogynistic, it would be unlike us, but...
unlike one of us.
Unlike one of us, fair enough. I've cut some things out of some episodes. But in the case of Elvira, I genuinely think it would be rude of us not to mention them.
She invites it.
She absolutely does. So much of her career and persona and sense of humor is based primarily around how big her boobs are.
Yeah.
And she is sort of like invites people to worship them, frankly.
She cleaved her way to stardom, I'll say. On the way here, I thought of a very nuanced and classy way to talk about her legacy as a figure in show business.
Oh, and we will.
And
absolutely, because she's done so many things. Yeah. She's just such a fascinating woman.
But if I could quantify why she got famous, there are two big facets two big reasons why she's an appropriate subject for our Halloween episodes here. But I mean, thinking on like the subject of the character of Elvira, it's one of those characters that you tend to forget about until it becomes Halloween season. And then it's like, oh yeah, she's been around fucking forever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And the concept of her as like the horror hostess. So she's like, all right, the two big things that aren't her tits. that sort of,
we know what the two big things
the big categories that she belongs into. One is the horror host, which is like a long-standing tradition of figureheads that bookend all of these sequences of, like, say, horror anthologies or short horror films. You need to have a guiding hand through something like this. And that's,
to a certain degree, the evolution of which was sort of taken over by the Mystery Science 3000 guys.
Sure.
Even though they moved away from sort of like the horror host genre and kind of like moved into like sci-fi. But like they're still kind of doing like the same thing or whatever.
Absolutely.
This is something that a lot of our younger listeners won't be terribly familiar with. But yeah, back in the day, back in the 80s, they would run old horror movies on TV, and they would have a ghoulish host of sorts to introduce the movie and pop in at commercial breaks to just like comment on stuff. And Elvira is probably the best known of all of them, really.
She wasn't the first one to do it. I mean, I have to imagine, like, who's that black and white one? Vampirella?
Vampira,
yeah.
Who is understandably tied to Elvira's history, which we will get into in a minute.
And then, like, another contemporary, Crypt Keeper, Freddy Krueger, the Creep from Creep Show.
I think even John Carpenter had a stint of doing that for a bit.
The thing with the Crypt Keeper is that the Crypt Keeper wasn't introducing movies. He was introducing segments on an original TV show that he was the host of. But yeah, it's all roughly within like the same category.
Sure, yeah.
Have you ever watched any of Elvira's specials before we decided to do this episode? Because I looked up a couple on YouTube, and I've definitely done my homework in that sense. But did you ever catch one on TV in your youth or anything like that?
My parents probably forbade me to watch it because, like, hey, they're horror movies shown at late, hosted by a real sexy lady who's just dripping with innuendo.
Would have
warped my young mind.
Your young, impressionable mind, yes.
Yeah, imagine how far along I would have been had I been exposed to Elvira a little sooner in life.
Well, you turned out great.
Thanks, man. And I guess, like, the other category that she definitely falls into is she's cut from the same cloth as, say, Ernest or Pee Wee Herman. You know, actors who probably weren't getting a lot of roles coming their way, so they decided to make a role for themselves.
Cassandra Peterson basically was ready to throw in the towel. She came up with the idea of Elvira like on the cusp of her 30th birthday, around which time, if you're a woman in Hollywood and you're 29 and you aren't booking anything,
clock's ticking.
Your career's over, basically, which is the sad reality of what it was in the 80s. But yeah, she found this amazing opportunity to come up with this character, and there are some people who I'm sure view a character like this as a chain around their neck that weighs them down, that keeps them from doing other things. Peterson has completely embraced this. She loves Elvira. She loves talking about it. She loves the fan base. She just seems like an all-around grade A, high-class lady in all aspects who has led an absolutely fascinating life. And it doesn't seem like she takes anything for granted.
Good.
So so let's get into the Cassandra Peterson backstory. Cassandra Gay Peterson.
That tracks.
A very appropriate middle name given the queer icon she has gone on to become. She was born in 1951 in Manhattan, Kansas.
Oh,
plot twist. I was today days old when I found out that was a place that existed.
Imagine getting that airplane ticket wrong.
Damn it! When she was a toddler, she was scalded with boiling water, resulting in 35% of her body requiring skin grafts.
Oh.
This is partly the reason for Elvira's iconic hairdo, piled up high as a bouffant, but long in the back to cover her back and shoulders, where she still has scarring.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Peterson has said in multiple interviews that,
Like, thank God it was the back and not the front.
It's a really interesting thing to think about when you consider Elvira as the sex icon that she is. She said in interviews, people view Elvira as this busty sex goddess. What they don't realize is that I very strategically showed them like the good parts.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything else was hidden, and like I really put like my assets front and center.
Yeah.
To see that. Yeah. As a teen, Peterson worked as a drag queen go-go dancer in various Colorado bars. Inspired by Anne Margaret in Viva Las Vegas, she convinced her parents to let her see a live show in Las Vegas when she was 17, where she caught the eye of a producer who hired her on the spot to be a showgirl in the Vegas review Viva la Girl. Apparently, the producer worked out a deal with her parents so she could work as a showgirl even though she was underage. Different
times, bygone era. I'm glad we moved past from that, hopefully.
But hey, like 1 out of 5, it seems to work out for the best. And Cassandra Peterson seems to be that 1 in 5 because by all accounts, Vegas is where she wanted to be. And she was immediately more happy once she started living that lifestyle. So
I can definitely see that.
So who's to say? Yeah. When she was there, she met and went on a date with Elvis Presley.
How old?
Unknown, but knowing what we know about him, probably not old enough. And later lost her virginity to Tom Jones.
Well, I mean, who in Vegas didn't lose their virginity to Tom Jones?
Yes. I just want to take this moment to point out, this is now the second episode in a row where we've been talking about a female entertainer, and I have brought out their dating life. I want to reiterate that I understand that's not like remotely like an important aspect of like any female actor's background. I just bring it up for Linda Blair and Cassandra Peterson because the people that they've dated is fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like I bring it up as like as a tip of the hat, like a well done, madam. Like that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Although according to Peterson, Tom Jones is a bit of a douchebag.
Yeah, you don't say.
You don't say. Yes. Yeah, she's dated. Also, according to her memoir, Wilt Chamberlain of the Harlem Globetrotters, also a bad dude. I won't repeat what he allegedly did to her because it's a bummer, but yeah, no good. Her first movie role was as a showgirl in 1971's Diamonds Are Forever. So her first movie was a James Bond movie. Yeah. One of the lesser Connerys, but there you go.
All right,
yeah. A pretty good feather in your cap to start off a film career. In the early 70s, she moved to Italy and was the lead singer of 2 rock bands.
Holy shit.
I Latins 80 and The Snails.
Ah, okay.
While she was there, she met director Federico Fellini and landed a small role in his 1972 film Roma. When she returned to the States, she worked at the Playboy Club in Miami and later worked for Hugh Hefner's Playboy modeling agency as a hostess and model.
Yeah, that tracks.
Many times, as Elvira, Peterson has been asked to pose nude as Elvira, and she's done some nude photo shoots as herself, but she has pointedly never photographed Elvira in the nude, largely because it would ruin the mystique. That's entirely the point of Elvira, is you're not supposed to see her naked. You're supposed to always imagine what she looks like naked, but if you actually saw what she looked like naked, it would ruin everything.
Yeah, I can totally see that as well. And, just from what the Barris I've looked at, the Barris I've looked at.
Yes.
Well, how do I describe this?
Remember, we have a free pass, Jameson. Right. So
whenever I've leered at her, ogled her material, there's a playful sexiness to everything. Everything is just like double entendres and everything like that. But
it's very chaste.
It's a good PG-13 risque that she kind of brings to the table. Well, I guess eventually we're going to talk about like that one movie that she starred in.
Get to it right now. Let's.
Let's continue.
I'm curious as to what movie you're talking about, but we'll get there. Hold on. 1979, she joined the legendary LA-based improv troupe, The Groundlings, of whose members are just countless. Like, I can't even list them. There's just so many talented people have come out of The Groundlings.
To this day, like, a lot of famous people are coming out of The Groundlings.
People are it's still around. It's still a huge institution. When she was there, she met her lifelong friend, the aforementioned Paul Rubens, who, of course, while at the Groundlings, developed his character, Pee Wee Herman, and then later he threw his old friend a role in Pee Wee's Big Adventure as a tough biker chick.
Yeah.
So she's in the tequila scene. It's a memorable role. Yeah, she like kicks him over or whatever.
Good on him for helping out a fellow cast member.
Yes, he seemed like a lovely man. R.I.P. In 1981, KHJ-TV in Los Angeles wanted to revive their weekend horror show Fright Night. And after courting former horror host and Ed Wood star Vampira, who turned them down, Peterson auditioned and got the role. She picked the name Elvira out of a hat. Her look was inspired by a kabuki makeup book and the hairstyles of the Ronettes. The show was retitled Elvira's Movie Macabre. Shortly before the first taping, producers received a cease and desist letter from Vampira, claiming Elvira's look and closing catchphrase, "Unpleasant dreams," was too close to her "bad dreams, darling." It was a lawsuit that Peterson would win.
Yes.
Because, it's, I mean...
You don't have ownership of being like a spooky
lady.
A spooky goth girl.
That's for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. The show ran for 5 seasons and had multiple spin-offs, including Elvira's Midnight Madness, 13 Nights of Elvira, and Elvira's 40th anniversary very scary, very special.
Sure.
She's great at titling things.
Yeah,
I don't know where she comes up with them.
Titling
like,
things?
We got
a free pass.
She's great at titling things as well, yes. Elvira became an instant pop culture icon, appearing on TV shows like Chips, The Fall Guy, and Fantasy Island as her character. She appeared on countless amounts of merchandise, and, you'll like this, Jameson, in 1986, was a guest commentator at WrestleMania 2.
Oh, yeah.
Alongside Jesse Ventura and Lord Alfred Hayes. She would later star in commercials advertising WCW's Halloween Havoc pay-per-view events. So she's everywhere.
Very appropriate. Oh, absolutely. Like, a woman like that character should be everywhere. That is like the character that you need to wheel out every Halloween. It's like Santa Claus.
She kind of is Santa Claus.
Yeah,
yeah
a figurehead that accompanies a holiday, that sticks around for an entire season.
She kind of is the mascot of Halloween.
Yeah.
To a certain degree. I feel like that role is kind of like shared by like a couple of iconography. You know what I mean? Icons. There was a much easier way of saying that. That's why you're here. You ground me. You bring me back down to the world.
You know, come to think of it, like she is undeniably a Halloween icon in the same way that Dracula, the Wolfman, Freddy Krueger, Jason are, and yet she's the only identifiable female of that group.
Yes.
You know, like everyone else, like, I wonder. This just crossed my mind.
Okay.
So in a genre where it's known for like a ton of the women to be the victim, she is undeniably a star.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And like most other people, like what's another iconic spooky female from that era? Because like nowadays we get like Annabelle or the Nun.
Well, I mean, there are lots of female horror icons you can draw on. The thing is that they usually are limited to like a single movie. Like obviously Bride of Frankenstein is one.
Oh, I completely forgot Bride of Frankenstein.
But like who's only in that movie for like 5 minutes. Like she's not really, she's memorable because she has the iconic look, but she's not like a huge part of that movie.
And also she's inexorably tied to the Frankenstein character.
Absolutely. Yes, it's right there in the name. There's some other examples. There's Carrie, of course.
Okay, yeah.
There's Mary Lou from Prom Night.
Well, I mean...
That's the one that I hope.
I think Mary Lou came more. I think Elvira predates Mary Lou, but I think I see your point. Maybe it's just that Elvira is like the most standout example.
She's the one that has the most staying power.
Sure, okay. Yeah. Gee, I wonder why.
Oh, no, it's not coming to me. Yeah. So Peterson's early film roles include parts in Cheech and Chong's next movie, The Sting 2, Stroker Ace, Echo Park, and Ted and Venus, but her biggest film role to date, obviously, is the 1988 film Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, which she co-wrote. Now, I took
That's the one I was talking about.
This is the one that I'm talking about. Yeah, so I watched this in preparation for today's discussion. The best thing I can say about it is that it looks like they all had fun.
Yes. It's a fun movie.
Sure.
Not in any way a fucking classic or any ways like that, but it's exactly what you would kind of expect for a starring vehicle for Elvira.
Absolutely.
She quits her TV show, she inherits a mansion from her deceased aunt, goes to the small conservative town and draws the ire of all the church ladies and the leers of all the loser men, and endears herself to the kids.
The teenagers, exactly.
Teaches them it's important to be yourself and it's okay not to fit in and all that shit. Yeah, good. There you go.
Apparently, it was a note from the producers that they needed to add more of a teenage aspect to appeal to the youth market. So So the film was pretty heavily rewritten midway through production, and a lot of the townsfolk characters kind of got cut out, and a lot of the teen stuff got replaced. And honestly, it's to the film's detriment, because it would have been more interesting if it was just Elvira giving it to the squares, man.
Exactly.
And that's definitely what that movie's about.
That's definitely the strong suit that she brings to that movie.
It would take another 13 years for Elvira to star in another movie, but it happened in 2001's Elvira's Haunted Hills.
Oh, okay.
You get it?
Yeah, I got it.
You understand?
I got it.
It means they're knockers.
What great knockers. That's a young Frankenstein reference, kid.
Can I just say, capital knockers, madam. Which is a period piece that drops Elvira in 1851 Carpathia.
Okay.
It also partners her up with a guy that I love, Richard O'Brien, creator of the Rocky Horror Show.
Right. Is it a musical?
It's not a musical.
Oh, okay.
No.
Huh.
Even though
she sing,
she sings in various rock bands.
And
so,
she was a Vegas showgirl. Why isn't it a musical?
Who knows?
Huh.
It's just they never made it work. They never made it work. It's still time. There's still time. She's only 73.
She still looks great.
She still looks amazing. Peterson's largely done with the movie scene these days. However, she did appear in 2022's The Munsters, directed by Rob Zombie. She plays a real estate agent that sells them their house. Did you engage with The Munsters at all growing up, Jameson?
Not really. I mean, the only thing that comes to mind whenever I think of The Munsters is like when I was a kid and we were watching My Cousin Vinny, my dad was always pointing out, hey, the judge there, he was Herman Munster.
Yes.
And as if like I knew who the fuck Herman Munster was.
Exactly, yes. I feel like growing up, you're either an Addams Family or you're a Munsters family, and neither the twain shall meet. My family was fully
in the Addams family.
The Addams Family. Yeah, no, I've never seen an episode of The Munsters. The only thing I've ever really engaged with is every once in a while you see that clip go around on TikTok or Instagram or whatever. That's a clip from the show where Herman Munster is talking about doesn't matter what like the color of your skin is, it doesn't matter what you look like, it just matters what your character is and how good your heart is. And it's like that. From what I glean, that's like it was one of the first shows to like do that. It was one of like the first shows to like flat out say like it doesn't matter if you're black or white, it just matters what your character is. And it was fairly revelatory for the day. And of course
it had to come from a monster.
It had to come from fucking Frankenstein. Yeah. So of course like that's But very few people liked that Rob Zombie Munsters movie. A movie that he's been trying to make for years. And kind of came out. Well, famously, the Munsters car is called the Dragula.
Okay.
So he's been like a fan of that show ever since he was a kid, and he injects like Munsters iconography into his music videos. So he's like the #1 super fan of that show.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that Dragula song does more for the Munsters legacy than the fucking movie he put out.
He probably like ruined the Munster. He probably salted the earth for all future Munster adaptations.
Herman Munster spitting in his grave, but it's okay. He's undead.
He's okay. Yeah, he's just taking a nap. He's just taking a nap down there. So that's the Cassandra Peterson filmography. And
pretty short, which I'm grateful for.
Pretty short. Also, midway while I was through that, Jameson, I realized that I forgot to mention today we're talking about 2010's All About Evil.
Oh, that's fine.
That's the biggest fail that I've ever done. 6 years in, and I've never forgotten to introduce the movie.
You know, I was
so gun ho to start talking about Cassandra because she's so cool.
If there's ever any doubt that men have a one-track mind when it comes to talking about a woman and her giant breasts, let it be this.
I don't know what could have distracted me. Well done, me. I am not going back and editing that in. We are keeping this this
authentic. All right.
All right. Should we take a little break and then start talking about the movie that I just mentioned?
Sure. Now it's fresh in my mind.
Look, you know what movie we're talking about because it's the title of the goddamn episode.
That's right. If you were waiting this long for us to say it, you can exhale now. Like Jesus.
We keep up airs because that's the format of the podcast, but you know what we're fucking talking about because you've already downloaded it.
This ain't your first rodeo.
Exactly.
Listen, and if it is, welcome.
Yeehaw, partner.
We're usually more on the ball.
We're a little more than this, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, it's Halloween. Who cares? It's fun. It's September. I almost said it's August, but no, it's September. And you know what?
Yeah.
Like our 2-month war on Christmas is more important than ever, Jameson, because it's not even October yet. We're in the dog days of September.
Yeah.
I have already seen 3 Christmas ads.
Oh, Christ, really?
I am incensed that I'm starting to see these things pop up before my YouTube videos.
Oh, my God. So, I forget what the context was, but I think I was just like in some, takeout place and someone had Spotify on, but it was like the ad-free Spotify. They were advertising their Christmas playlist.
Right.
And this was like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, no!
Why do you need to advertise a Christmas playlist? If it's Christmas time, we'll put it on.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you
sign up for Spotify and listen to our curated Christmas list or make your own or whatever. Like, we know.
The thing that people have done like every year ever since Spotify came out. Yeah, absolutely.
We haven't forgotten about Christmas.
It's like when you go into a fast food restaurant and you look at the menu and then all of a sudden they take the menu away to advertise like the new burger. It's like, you already got me. I'm in here. I'm committed to giving you money. Stop trying to sell me on the thing that I'm already fucking doing. I'm committed to doing it. Anyway,
all right. Well,
clearly Big Christmas has been paying attention to this podcast, Jameson, and they are doubling it down. So next year, 3 months of Halloween?
We're going to have to start accepting donations to fund this war here.
We'll see. Anyway, we'll take a little break. When we come back, we'll talk about 2010's All About Evil. Stay tuned.
Yeah, but you can't wait.
Hey everybody, Kaz Lesgard here, and I'm so excited to let you all know that I have a new podcast that you can listen to. Past Nothing Movies guest and friend Tarek Leslie and myself have been working on a project for about a year now, and we're finally ready to bring it to you just in time for spooky season. It's called Satan is Real. That's real with 2 E's. And it's a journey through the cinematic appearances of the big guy himself. Mephistopheles, Old Scratch, Baphomet, the father of lies. I'm speaking about the devil, people! We'll be covering any film that is Satan adjacent, and to kick things off, we're covering all 6 entries in the Exorcist franchise. Satan is Real is available wherever you find podcasts. Hail Pazuzu!
So, Kaz, you know what I just realized the other day?
What did you realize?
We have crossed, with this episode, we have crossed a fairly unique milestone in our podcast history.
Okay.
Yeah. As of this episode, we have now recorded as many Nothing Movies episodes as we have The Fuck Is This episode.
You know what? I was taking a look at the Nothing Movies category. I have all of our episodes listed on Letterboxd because I list everything on Letterboxd. And I noted that we were like really close to that like about a month ago.
Yeah.
And that I completely forgot about it until now. So there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Pretty soon we will eclipse The Fuck Is This entirely. And it'll just be nothing but Nothing Movies.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter.
And then in a year from now, all podcasts will be Nothing Movies.
All media.
All media.
We're aiming for a global takeover, Jameson. All media, all social media will be Nothing Movies. We're
Can only be better than what's got going on right now with social media.
It's a good point to bring up now. We are partnering with Elon Musk to take over.
Not my idea.
No, not my. He contacted me. He basically forced us into this. All About Evil. Mm-hmm. It is directed by written and directed by Joshua Granell, a.k.a. Peaches Christ, who studied film at Penn State, where his senior thesis film, Jizz Mopper, A Love Story, won the Audience Award at the Student Film Festival. 1998, Granell started Midnight Mass, a midnight movie event based out of San Francisco that began at the movie theater Granell managed. Hosted by his drag persona Peaches Christ, the show includes elaborate pre-show skits, guest stars, and drag spectacles. Midnight Mass ran until the summer of 2009. The final season was aired as on TV as a 6-part event titled Midnight Mass with your hostess Peaches Christ, and was produced by Mark Cuban.
Whoa, really?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. We have way more clout than I would have thought.
Peaches currently tours with her short film collection as part of An Evening with Peaches Christ, and can be seen in a small role in the Oscar-winning Gus Van Sant film Milk. So, yeah, pretty big freaking deal within the San Francisco community. So this was a movie that you chose. Jameson. This was a movie that you brought to my attention.
When I threw out the idea of like maybe we can do something on Elvira, and then I had to scrub through the IMDb of movies where Cassandra Peterson didn't play Elvira.
Right.
And it's like, well...
We don't have much to choose from, and this is definitely the most obscure thing that she's made.
Mm-hmm.
Although I would say within a certain community, this movie is quite well known.
Okay.
To the rest of the movie-going community, I would say this movie barely exists.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that this movie definitely has a bit of a cult audience.
Oh, yeah. Like inviting a cult audience. Like it does not want to have any more...
It
doesn't want to invite more eyeballs onto it than the people that are already in on it. I have to imagine...
To its detriment, I would argue.
I have to imagine a majority of the people who are like cast in the movie are close friends of Peaches Christ.
Probably all of them, I would have to imagine. And if they weren't before they got cast in the movie, they probably were before the movie was over.
But, I mean, in my headcanon for this movie, I just imagine, because I didn't know the history of, I'm going to call the director Peaches Christ.
I am too, because if you give me the option of saying Joshua and Peaches Christ, yeah, I'm going to call them Peaches Christ.
And I also forgot the real name. Anyway.
Too late, not going back.
But I would have thought, okay, it's their very first time writing and directing a movie. They somehow...
A feature. They didn't do shorts.
Yes. Oh, okay, yes. Yeah, I didn't know that. I also just would assume maybe they knew someone who knew Cassandra Peterson in, sort of the drag community, and she's the one that managed to open some doors of getting, like, I don't know, a cinematographer and some production team.
I mentioned that Midnight Mass had a few guest stars. Unsurprisingly, Cassandra Peterson was one of those guest stars.
Okay.
Not a long walk to figure that out. Certainly knowing this context about Peaches Christ and her midnight movie horror production thing that lasted for like well over a decade in San Francisco, now knowing this context, All About Evil makes a lot more sense as an object to me now, because I'm thinking about the movie, and screening this for an audience of people who are already fans of Peaches Christ and her whole deal, and just like the concept of like the midnight movie to begin with, that's the audience that this movie should be screened for. I did not know that context before I watched the movie, and as a result, I did not care for it.
Now,
it's kind of really important context to know.
Now, if you were to say, I don't know, have like a personal relationship with some of these people, then you'd be a lot more forgiving to
Absolutely.
it. Absolutely.
But watching it as a movie, like talking about it objectively as a piece of entertainment, this thing doesn't fucking work for me. But we will get into it. Absolutely. But it should also be noted, this may be a movie that we've covered where the subject of our discussion, the actor that we're spotlighting in the movie, this may be the smallest role they've had in a movie that we've discussed.
No.
With maybe the exception being A Sunday Horse.
Or those two Samuel Jackson ones where he was maybe in one or two scenes.
Good point. Yeah, he's in like two scenes of those ones.
I know what you're getting at, though, because...
you know what? You're right. One-Eyed Jimmy, he's definitely in that movie less than Peterson's in this movie. Yeah. I'll give you that.
I will say Cassandra Peterson plays one of the main characters' mother, and when she showed up as the mom, I was like, well, there's one of her two scenes, and Cass is going to be pissed at me. But thankfully, she sticks around for multiple scenes.
She's in like 4 or 5. And she's in more of the latter half of the movie.
And she's fairly integral in the last scene of the movie.
Absolutely, yeah. And she, we've just talked about it, so we might as well bring it up. Yeah, she's kind of playing the most normal character in the movie. She's just playing a nice, normal mom.
Yep.
I'm sure she probably enjoyed the opportunity to kind of like stretch her acting muscles and play kind of a regular character, even though I have heard in interviews she doesn't really like acting. She doesn't like memorizing lines. By her own account, she's quite a lazy person.
Yeah.
I get it.
I can tell that there was like a professionalism in what she was doing in this, but I could just tell she was dying to have more jokes. She did not like playing this kind of muted, concerned mother.
Character.
Yeah.
Yes. But let's get into it. So, All About Evil, it is a feature-length adaptation of an earlier Peaches Christ short film. And what's it about, Jameson? What's the plot?
The plot is that there is this theater employee who inherits a movie house from her late father, who was really driving her and pushing her into show business. He thought that she had real star quality, and it entered her into
the business of show.
And this is shown to us in an early flashback when he hosts this Wizard of Oz themed pageant. I suppose it wasn't a play. It wasn't a stage play.
I think what it was like a kids matinee event
or a review
that this theater was showing. I believe the live action part of it was meant to be sort of like the pre-show thing.
Okay.
Where they had songs and skits, because there's also a character that we're going to talk about because she's an amazing character, but there's a character who's dressed up like the Wicked Witch. Our protagonist, Debbie Tennis, who we see as a little girl, is dressed as Dorothy, and her father is sort of pushing her to go on stage and sing a little song, and she's obviously quite nervous. What I gleaned from this is that this was sort of like the pre-show thing that her father, who's like obviously like this big showman, whoever, is engineering, and then after this, they would have shown the kids like Bambi or something like that.
Sure, yeah.
I'm guessing, because we never get that far, because of course, poor Debbie gets nervous and pees all over the stage.
All the kids in the auditorium laugh at her. The woman who we find out is playing her mother is, like, I guess, auditioning as the Wicked Witch of the West.
Okay, I truly have no idea why she's dressed as the Wicked Witch. I might say so. This is her stepmother.
Okay,
this woman is married to her father. She's the Wicked Witch both in costume and in personality.
Yeah, very appropriately the Wicked Witch.
She's a horrible woman. She's like smoking, and she's like telling Debbie like she ain't shit, and she's no.
Well, she says like, "All right, I'm done my part. I'm leaving." He's like, "What? You don't want to see little Debbie do her auditions?" Like, "Oh, there's no way I'm missing that train wreck."
And she's laughing from the side, and
cackling like a witch. And I was like, "Oh, how appropriate!"
and Debbie's urine electrocutes the microphone that she's talking to, and she kind of like falls over. And I thought that would go somewhere. It kind of doesn't. It kind of leads to nothing. She just got electrocuted, and then we all moved on from that. It almost felt like that, because like we jump ahead like 25 years later, and her father has just died. It kind of feels like it would make more sense if like the piss wire electrocuted her father there, and then she was raised by her evil stepmother or something like that.
Maybe.
But it's kind of it's the first of many setups that go absolutely nowhere. In this film.
Yeah, you went right when you should have veered left on that. Yeah, when we cut to her 25 years later, she is quitting her job at a library, and they're pretty much jumping right into she's unhinged. She's always been a little off. And I thought maybe as the stresses of her running a movie house or in the machinations of her own mother led her down this path, like she starts becoming more and more sociopathic. She becomes a murderer. No, she always had like a bit of twinge of, is this kid all right?
He never wanted me to be a librarian. I was to be a great Hollywood actress. Well, I may have disappointed my father in life, but I'm going to do my absolute best to make him proud. Even in death. It's like Daddy always said, the show must go on.
And maybe the implication is that, like, ever since she got electrocuted by the piss cord, that's when her brain broke or whatever. But again, these are all assumptions that we have to make because the movie doesn't really spell it out for us. So the actual star of this movie, we're here to talk about Cassandra Peterson, but the actual star of this movie is the great Natasha Lyonne, who I'm sure we will cover on her own episode one day.
Yeah.
Because she's had a tremendous career. I've always loved Natasha Lyonne. What do you think of her, Jameson?
I'm only super familiar of her work from Orange is the New Black, but I've always really liked her. She's got one of the most, in more ways than one, unique voices in Hollywood. I could just listen to her.
She's got one of like those great smoky voices like Emma Stone, where it sounds like she preternaturally came out of the womb like smoking 30 packs a day or whatever, but it's just like, it's a very unique, very sexy voice.
But also on top of that, she just has like that thick Brooklyn accent you just don't hear anywhere else. Yeah, it's awesome.
I mean, Natasha Lyonne's great. She's in a bit of a renaissance right now because she has Poker Face, which is a very successful Netflix show. I've heard it's great. I haven't seen it yet because I'm so behind on all my TV watching, but I've heard she's great on that. She has like one of like the most forgettable parts in the American Pie movies, but she's definitely in those movies.
Yeah.
She's always just playing the character that kind of doesn't really affect the plot at all. She's like the sarcastic girl who has one or two good digs and then disappears from the plot.
Well, no one's trying to get with her.
Right.
Yeah.
And they should, because she's Natasha Lyonne. She's gorgeous. Yeah, and like she'll do like these big budget movies. She'll voice the turtle in DC League of Super Pets. She'll do blockbusters or whatever. What I love about Natasha Lyonne is her heart is in these outsider art projects. She loves like experimental movies. She loves stuff with like lots of gore. She loves stuff that like defies genre. She's a big queer icon because of course she's the star of the seminal queer classic But I'm a Cheerleader, which is a fantastic queer movie. Yeah, and she'll always do like these like weird outsider projects that don't really make like a lot of sense. Yeah.
This one I don't think counts though, because isn't this somewhat between her big resurgence after Orange is the New Black? Like this is 2010,
I would say
right?
this is a little bit of a fallow period for her, but like also she's never been like a massive star. She's always just kind of been on like the periphery, and she's always just been a solid fucking addition to any cast. And she's, you know, I don't have any fault around most of the performances in this. I do think she's great. You were, and we'll get to this in the plot, but like you were saying that like she goes through like a bit of a personality change as this movie goes on. I much prefer her in this earlier bit.
Yeah.
I like her playing the unhinged kind of whack job. It's a flavor from her that I actually haven't seen before, because she's usually like a tough, no-nonsense Brooklyn gal. You know? Is she from Brooklyn? I don't know.
I have no idea. But I feel like she's doing too many things in this, but not necessarily in a bad way. I just think that she's stretching herself a little too thin in parts, because before she becomes the serial killer, she's a very mousy, nervous concession stand girl. And then when she switches into this persona as the person orchestrating all of these sinister murders, she becomes more of like an old Hollywood actress, like a Katharine Hepburn. And then when she's in her movies, she's just doing accent work.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, it's not really one thing where I can see it's the same character dipping in and out of these different roles, but I gotta give her props for trying.
Yeah. Yeah, she's from Flatbush, which is a suburb of Brooklyn. So there we go. I was right. Also, apparently, she used to date Fred Armisen. Good for her.
Huh.
Yeah, so Debbie runs her father's failing movie house. He's recently passed away, and she runs the concession stand there with her only other employee, Mr. Twigs, who I wanted to like as a character more than I did. I feel like this character is a little inconsistent with how I'm supposed to feel about him.
Yeah, at the very start, he's just like a very frail, somewhat kindly old movie projectionist. And then as the movie goes on and he becomes aware of what Debbie is doing, he's almost immediately
all in
for unexplained reasons. And
turns out he wanted to murder the entire time. He was always in on murder, and it took absolutely nothing.
It took him until he
flipped that switch in his brain,
all the way to his fucking 90s for him to pull that switch.
Well, it's never too late.
Yeah,
it's never too late.
So this is all shown to us when Debbie's mom comes by the movie theater with the contract to her evil stepmother to sign over the rights to the Victoria Theater because the land is worth a ton of money, and Debbie flat out refuses, and in fact is pushed to the brink, where she grabs the pen and stabs her mother dead in the neck and then stabs her on the floor. And once that fugue state of Debbie's ends, she realizes, oh, all of this was caught on the security cameras, but we have like paying customers in the movie theater, and the movie's late getting started because Mr. Twigs has stepped outside for mouthwash or whatever.
Yeah, he literally says, I'm stepping out for some mouthwash.
I need some mouthwash. Mind if I run out?
Sure. An interesting line.
Why? You weren't alone in the projection booth. Anyways.
There's a fun little moment where the evil stepmother meets Mr. Twigs on the sidewalk. I'm actually sorry that this stepmother character isn't in the movie more, because she's great.
I was remarking to myself, why isn't Cassandra Peterson playing this part? And then I found out, oh, she's only in this. This character's only in 2 scenes.
She's only in 2 scenes. Yeah, exactly. But there's a very funny moment where she's talking to Mr. Twigs. She pulls out a cigarette, and Mr. Twigs tries to light it for her, and he flicks his Bic once, it doesn't work. And then she immediately goes, "Oh, come on, man!" And it's like, it's funny because like you feel like that should have happened after maybe like the fourth or fifth time.
Yeah.
She immediately is on Mr. Twiggs'
She's got no
case.
time for
She's
Mr.
got
Twiggs.
absolutely no time for Mr. Twiggs' bullshit. Yeah, and she hands him like a crumpled $20 when she tells him, "I'm gonna sell the theater. You're gonna be out on your ass, Mr. Twiggs." So yeah, Debbie runs upstairs to the projection booth because there are a small handful of theater patrons. The movie hasn't started yet. They're showing all of like the classic midnight movie. I believe they are showing the classic Herschel Gordon Lewis film Blood Feast. I don't think we actually see it. We see posters for it. But Debbie runs up there. She clearly doesn't know which button turns on the movie because she ends up putting the security camera footage on the movie screen. Don't know how that happened, but whatever.
This is one of the movie's many contrivances.
Sure. I mean, I'll buy it. Why not?
She doesn't necessarily know how to run the movie projector, but she does happen to know how to put the security footage onto a film reel and then hit the right buttons enough so that the camera transitions seem like actual cinematography, because that fools the audience into thinking that they're watching a real movie.
Yeah, and that's basically the setup of the movie, is that Debbie ends up accidentally projecting her grisly murder victim on screen for everyone to watch, and the movie-going public is under the impression that this is like a little short film that she's put together beforehand.
They give it a little smattering of applause.
They give it like a little like awkward clap or whatever. Then Mr. Twiggs comes back, he sees everything, he immediately comes out and she says, "Hey, didn't you like that? Wasn't that good?" And
welcome to the first of our many short films of our original productions at the start of all our movies. And I'm like, nice save, buddy.
Nice save, Mr. Twiggs. And then one would imagine they screened the feature film while Debbie and Mr. Twiggs cleaned up the blood and body in the lobby. One would assume that. We definitely don't see that happen.
No. They drag it to the attic, which Mr. Twiggs assures her, like, no one will discover it because it's too high up for people to smell. And I'm just thinking, wouldn't the blood drip through the ceiling? I'll get back to that in a bit.
Absolutely what happened. This is the first of many times where we should not listen to Mr. Twiggs.
No.
Yes. It's around this time we meet kind of our other protagonist here. We meet the character of Steven, who is a young high school student who is a big horror movie fan. He kind of has an unrequited crush on Debbie. He's really into these like monster movies as you know, like all young impressionable teens are.
Sure, yeah.
This is Thomas Dekker, who's probably best known for playing John Connor in the Sarah Connor Chronicles, the TV show.
Okay, I was going to ask if he was like a Disney kid or something because all right, in my eyes, there's only two recognizable people to me in this movie. One is Natasha Lyonne, the other one is Elvira, and this kid gets the in the credits, and I'm like,
he's all like, I kind of familiar. Yeah. He was a kid actor, and then I'd say the Terminator TV show was kind of like his big break. And he's still around. He's still doing things. Yeah.
I don't know. He's a likable enough character, but most of the adults in this movie assume that he is this problem kid, like a school shooting waiting to happen.
For like really no reason at all. I mean, we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but like, we see Steven in class. He's in English class. He's like drawing. I'm really jumping ahead. He's drawing something salacious in his notebook because he's also like an artist or whatever. But pointedly, his teacher is discussing Catcher in the Rye with the class, and she asks Steven, "What are your thoughts on Holden Caulfield?" And he makes this one statement like, "Well, if Holden Caulfield were alive today, he'd probably be a school shooter." And based on that one comment, seemingly, Steven immediately becomes like a little terrorist around the school, and like this teacher is like out for his blood.
Yeah,
she wants to lock him up, and it's like, lady. You brought it. You asked him.
Yeah, he's just spitballing answers. He's doodling in class. He's not paying 100% attention, but he seems like a nice enough kid who's just a fan of horror movies. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
No, and you're talking about Catcher in the Rye in like 2010. A modern day student would probably bring up Columbine. There are parallels.
They might even bring up a more recent school shooting.
Absolutely,
Jesus, yeah.
So. Yeah, I don't know, but like, this is a runner on poor Steven. He's basically like ostracized at school. He has like a group of like a couple of friends.
Yeah, and all his friends are sort of like pegged as like the school losers, you know, the kids that are into metal and horror movies and grim, dark kind of stuff like that. even though they're all dressed like fucking Gap models,
Yes.
there's only one friend of his that seemed to have got the memo that, like, yeah, you guys are supposed to be like the social outcasts of
Right.
the school. Everyone else just
One of them is like full on goth. The
Yeah.
rest of them are like fairly normal looking kids.
It would make more sense if they were all kind of the goth. If they were all
Yeah.
like Lydia from Beetlejuice,
Sure.
right? But whatever.
I'll just mention this now when we're bringing up the friends. This movie has too many fucking characters.
Yeah.
And not nearly enough of them end up murdered.
No.
Like by the end, we're all like, damn, a lot of people are still alive.
Mhm,
Holy shit. Way more than there should be.
Also, we should probably just mention that Cassandra Peterson plays Steven's mother.
Yeah.
She's
We mentioned that.
we mentioned she plays someone's mom.
Oh, well, it's this kid.
Yeah, it's this kid. She's introduced when she barges into his room, like she wasn't expecting him to be there. And I'm just like, what is she? Is she like looking for weed or something, like for her own? Anyways, but yeah, she's just one of the other adults that's concerned for a little baby boy. And he's just, of all the people that should have, like should be worried about him, maybe the mom is somewhat justified because he only snaps back to her.
Sure.
Yeah. To the teacher, he's just like trying to plead his case. No, I'm fine. To his mom, he's like, shut up, mom.
Sure,
You don't.
but he's a surly teen, you know.
Yeah.
That's how they do.
So how's school? I mean, you hardly ever talk about grades or homework. Did you find the college applications I left out for you?
No, I went blind momentarily and missed the giant pile of crap you left on top of my pillows.
Steven, just calm down, okay? I mean, I know
I
you're
am going to art school. The applications you left on my bed.
You're right. You know, Steven, I still haven't seen a Disney movie with severed heads and rotting corpses. I mean, what do you plan on doing to make a living?
Oh my god, lady. It's as if you want to fight. You, enjoy it.
Kind of the only joke that Cassandra Peterson gets, it's not even like a joke, it's just a reference, is that Stephen has all of this horror iconography on his walls. He's got horror posters on the wall, including a big poster of Elvira over his bed. So he's got his mom on the wall.
That's a little weird.
It's a little edible. Just a tad. And there's again, it's not even a joke. It's just like a reference where he says, "Mom, I think I'm in love with an older woman."
And she kind of just looks at it.
And then she looks at her own poster.
A picture of her younger self, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I get it."
I mean, and that was what I was saying to Peaches Christ. I get it, all right. I get what you're going for here.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Peaches Christ, we get our Hitchcockian director cameo.
No. This is more of an M. Night Shyamalan cameo because Peaches Christ is a full-on character in this. And look, I respect that Peaches Christ has this decades-long midnight movie institution thing that she did, and this movie. It kind of largely is the encapsulation of everything that she has been building to
their legacy
over the years.
Yeah.
Their legacy, absolutely. Casting yourself in the movie and then having a character go, "Don't you know who that is? That's Peaches Christ. She's a San Francisco legend." It's a little tacky.
Mm-hmm.
And
agreed.
I get that she's a drag queen, and I get that most of the time they don't.
That's their bread and
they
butter.
They don't care about if they're being tacky. But that's really how it kind of smelt.
In a piece of cinema, for example. Yeah, you have to be a little bit more inviting to the audience and not give them a reason to hate you. I mean, I'm one to talk. I've made a couple of short films and movies, and I've casted myself as sort of a pastiche of myself. But
and also your avatar is
meant to be
animated to look like you. So
yeah, but I also write myself to be a bit of a loser and a dick. So I'm not elevating myself. I'm giving fictional characters a chance to break me down.
I mean, speaking of which, I'm jumping ahead all the way to the end here. I was genuinely surprised that Peaches Christ didn't end up murdered. And it felt like it was going that way.
If you're directing yourself in a guilty pleasure slasher movie, why are you one of the victims?
Absolutely.
Take that golden opportunity.
Yeah.
Now, not to stereotype, but they probably just didn't want to get any fake blood on their outfits and ruin their makeup.
Okay, but there are creative solutions around that. I don't know. Have an air conditioner fall on her or something.
Sure, yeah.
Something like that.
But actually, going back to this in writing their own movie, I also get the feeling that they were using this opportunity, I don't know, I felt like they had an axe to grind with certain demographics.
Well, yeah, okay. This is my big problem with the overall plot of this movie. Have you ever seen the movie Serial Mom?
No.
So it's a John Waters classic. Obviously, Peaches Christ is very inspired by John Waters in this. It's the movie that reminded me the most of this. Serial Mom is Kathleen Turner is your standard suburban housewife. She's always smiling. She's always baking a pie. But when she runs into people who wrong her, who do these social bon mots or just like
faux pas
or just rude or whatever, she murders them in horrible ways.
Right.
And that's where the comedy is. And that's what I assumed Debbie was going to end up doing.
Oh, absolutely.
But almost immediately, the second victim she has,
Mm-hmm.
that the bottom completely falls out of it.
Yeah.
She obviously killed her horrible stepmother because she's a horrible person,
Yeah,
and she had a reason for murdering
She
her.
specifically says, like, oh, won't someone go looking for this woman?
No one will miss this bitch.
No one's going to miss this woman. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I'll accept that as an answer for, why we're going to let this one go under the rug. But the second victim is just this perfectly nice, out-of-town girl who directly says to Debbie, hey, I'm a big fan of your movies. And yeah, you seem super nice and super creative.
And Debbie immediately hates this woman for absolutely no reason. I mean, there is a reason, but like, what Peaches Christ forgot to do is she forgot to film and include the scene that set this up. Because the reason Debbie and Mr. Twiggs end up murdering this woman is because she committed the sin of talking on her phone in the movie ?
Really?
But we never see her do that. We just see her talk on the phone. But she's talking on the phone in the lobby. Which I'm sorry, everyone can do that. It's perfectly acceptable. It's like a totally normal thing. It would have been so easy, Peaches, if you just friggin' included a scene where this woman was talking all the way through the movie, and Debbie's up in the fucking projection booth going like
just seething.
You're next on my list, bitch! But like, that scene doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And it's important. It's an important scene. As an audience member, I need to see that. I can't connect all the dots for you.
So the reason that they dispatch of this perfectly nice young woman is, I suppose, Debbie manages to drug her soda from the concession stand.
Did you notice how the soda is given out in this concession stand? This movie really is on hard times because they don't even have a soda fountain. They don't even have fucking carbonation thing or anything like that. She's pouring diet soda out of a pitcher. Out of just like a punch pitcher.
Yeah. That's what it is. It's her homemade cola.
Yeah, absolutely. She made it in the basement. Yeah, absolutely.
Times are tough, right?
And she turns around and she pours like sleeping powder or whatever the fuck into the lady's drink or whatever. Even without pouring literal poison into this thing, if I went to any concession stand and they gave me like flat soda from a fucking jug, I would just say, you know what, I'm fine.
All right.
I just say, you know what, like even if you can't afford like a soda fountain, just get a 2 liter. Even that's acceptable because even that has carbonation to it.
I once went to an improv show and they just had like beer in a cooler.
There you go.
There.
Super, just get cans. Just get cans of soda.
There you go.
But this is the weirdest fucking thing I've ever seen. It's very odd. It's very odd because they have a popcorn machine, but I guess that's where the budget ran out.
Buying kernels.
Very odd because they're clearly shooting in a real movie theater.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, did the movie theater not have a soda fountain? You know, a thing that every movie theater has? Have you ever been to a movie theater that doesn't have a soda fountain? It's very strange, right?
Yeah.
If they don't, they have bottled. I don't know. I'll get off this point.
Yeah.
Now.
All right. I think we get it.
I think we get it, Kaz. We get it, Kaz. We're moving on,
All
Kaz.
right.
We're moving on.
So the woman who was drugged wakes up in the empty theater. Why no one woke her up, I have no idea. But now,
fuck her.
But now she's trapped in the movie theater and she's lured backstage, where she finds her way to the basement, and there's Mr. Twiggs wearing his druid robes and with a hatchet in one hand and a little 8mm camera in the other. And he's very feebly trying to hack away at this poor woman as she's screaming, and her top falls off.
Well, he rips it off.
He rips it
right off of her body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he leads her to the basement where Debbie is waiting, I believe, dressed as Marie Antoinette.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow they've acquired a working guillotine. I don't know how they found that, but they got it. I mean, like, from like stabbing her stepmother in the neck with a pen to like straight to guillotine. Like, it feels like we missed like a couple of steps here, Debbie. Like, she really spiraled quickly.
I can't. I know it's like sort of meant to be like tongue-in-cheek cheesy thing, but like, I can't accept that this person who admires Debbie and respects her didn't recognize Debbie in the Marie Antoinette wig.
It's a very good outfit. It's very good disguise.
Jesus
very
Christ.
Good disguise. She's also drugged. You have to remember.
Fair,
She's also going around. Yeah. So Debbie immediately begins admonishing Mr. Twiggs because he has he has purchased a guillotine where the head hole is not big enough to stick the woman's head on. I'm just over here going like, you have to lift it up.
Yeah.
You don't just put the head through, you have to lift it up. That's how it works.
He's a very old man. I'm sure he didn't have the...
Well, Debbie could have figured it out. I don't know, they're both
No,
idiots.
she's the director.
She's not the ideal woman.
Yeah. So they
improvise.
they opt instead to use the guillotine to chop off her breasts.
Yes, and then Debbie turns this into a film called The Tale of Two Titties.
Yeah. Missing the obvious joke of it was the breast of times.
Oh my god.
I was waiting
for...
Here's how much of a hack I am.
Here's your Nobel Prize. That's incredible.
I'm predicting that line and it didn't show up and I'm like, oh my god, if that line was too dumb for Peaches Christ, then what am I?
Yeah, that made the cutting room floor,
yeah.
Unfortunately.
So she broadcasts that as the little vignette of like no talking during the movie.
Right. Here's the thing. We're setting this up as all like, oh, Debbie's making like these like amazing like short horror films or whatever. They're advertisements. Mm-hmm. They're vignettes. They're not fucking movies.
They're the little 30-second things that play at the start of the movie theaters to say like, hey, let's all go to the lobby.
That's barely a movie. Yeah, absolutely.
Now that said, I kind of wish that independent theaters would do that a little bit more, like hire like a small production
I've seen that
local
before.
studio to be like, hey, can you film like this, like a funny little thing about like, hey, turn your phone off during the movie theater.
I've literally seen that before. I've literally seen this exact thing where like someone's being really obnoxious and rude, and then they use their film school budget to like murder that person mercilessly. Yeah, it's old hat at this point. And it does raise the question. I get that this is the plot. I get that Debbie is crazy and she's filming her murders and turning them into short films. What I think is interesting is that at no point in time did she ever try to, just make a horror movie.
Yeah.
Without murdering people. Why not just make movies? It's really easy.
Yeah, and then like the drama is trying to cover up the one murder that you're responsible for. But yeah, everyone loves her fucking movies, with the exception of Steven's friend at school, who I think has a name, but I just wrote down Negative Nancy.
I wrote down not Sarah Silverman.
Yeah. So she is, I'm just going to say, a very obnoxious character. Now, on the whole, I agree with most of the things that this character is saying. The stuff that Debbie is making is not high art. These are not good movies on an artistical and I don't know, technical level. These are not good movies. They're just like quick little poorly shot vignettes.
Yeah. And it's Peaches Christ sort of like playing up the scenario to kind of be all like, well, like obviously this is not how people would react to these sort of things, but like this is the plot of my movie, so.
But she also drops this one line.
I mean, she's a woman making this misogynistic crap for a theater full of like Peter Jackson dorks. And it makes me wonder if you hate women or something because you just love it so much.
Just hold on a second. You would think I hate women just because I like her movies?
All right, yeah. I mean, that's but again,
like horror movies.
She's a high schooler, right? So, it's like...
Yeah, I mean, and she's one of those high schoolers that's like very extra and random.
Yeah. So it's like, like high schoolers can have opinions, but here's the thing about most opinions that high schoolers have. They're wrong because they're young. Yeah. I mean, it's not always the case, like in terms of like social justice and like climate control and everything like that. Most high schoolers have great opinions, but you need to live a little bit. You need to like expose yourself to like a lot more like art and culture before you can really comment on everything.
Actually, to that point, I want to bring up something that I am hoping is a big lead up for you in this. All right. Stephen goes to Debbie's defense by saying that she is the first prominent female horror director, of which there are none.
That was immediately...
Now, Kaz, did you fact check this? Because I sure as hell fact checked.
I didn't even have to fact check. I could just list like a bunch like off the top. I mean, like this movie came out in 2010, so like stuff like The Babadook wasn't out yet.
Right, but pre-2010...
We have like Amy Holden Jones who did Slumber Party Massacre. And there's like Karen Kusama who did Jennifer's Body. Mary Herron did American Psycho. Yeah, pretty big horror movie.
We got Pet Sematary. We got Near Dark. We got Fear Street. It's like, come on. Like, Peaches Christ, just because you can't name a female film director doesn't mean that, like, fucking Google doesn't exist.
Exactly, yes. All you had to do was, like, a cursory Google search. And look, you could make the argument that the characters in this movie are idiots.
Sure.
Because everyone's kind of an idiot in this movie. But, like, also, every once in a while, like, if someone states, like, an opinion like that, it's hard not to view that as the opinion of the filmmaker.
Yes.
Right? And it's like...
And that's very telling with this.
And obviously, we just listed like a handful of movies. Obviously, like
and the big ones too. Yeah.
Men within all genres of film directors, men are still unfortunately running the table, and like it's infinitesimally harder for women to get into the industry. But female filmmakers still fucking exist.
Yeah,
they've been around forever. So shenanigans on that.
Yeah, you're just fundamentally wrong on that. Yeah. Incorrect. Factually incorrect.
Around this time, Debbie, who is Debbie Tennis is now transitioning into her more confident, sort of Betty Davis-inspired persona of Deborah Tennis.
Yeah.
Is that her name?
Yeah.
Of course. Natasha Lyonne, as she gets more evil, is styling her performance a little bit more on classic 50s film stars like Betty Davis, because of course. All About Evil, a play on All About Eve, starring Betty Davis, so there you go.
Mm-hmm.
But Deborah decides that it's time that she needs to hire a few more employees at her movie theater.
Yeah, and I'm like people to run the concession stand? Well, too bad you killed that really friendly goth girl.
Yeah, she would have happily have done that. Yeah.
But no, what she actually needs is co-conspirators. Yeah, some more psychopaths. So she enlists the help of two twin
serial killers who like murdered their parents when they were little girls, and now they are 18 and they are being released from the sanitarium.
Yeah, channeling their inner Wednesday Addams.
Zira and Vida, who aren't silent characters. They do talk, but they're mostly silent characters. They mostly like stand around
and glare.
Creepy twins.
Yeah. Now you've met both my sisters.
Yeah.
This is the kind of part that they would like. They're not twins, but like they clearly would have gone out for an audition for this part because they have more than a passing resemblance to each other. I think they would have killed a role like this.
Absolutely, yeah. These are real life identical twins, but yeah. And she also enlists the help of a random crazy street person named Adrian, who she sees as Debbie and Mr. Twiggs are walking around one day. We see kind of like a fancy lady in a fur coat. We see this crazy individual just like walking down the street.
Like Malcolm McDowell in The Clockwork Orange by way of a gutter punk.
Yes, but with no posse. He's entirely on his own, and he's just a random crazy street person who sees this lady's fur coat and handbag, and he just beats her to death with a bat? Beats her to death with something.
I think he beats her to death with like her own scepter because she's a rich lady with a scepter.
She's just walking around with a scepter. Look, if you're walking around downtown,
you deserve an ass
San Francisco. Yeah, don't be walking around with your scepter. Don't show off your scepter money if you have it. That's your fault.
I kind of like this character. He had some good one-liners.
Yeah. He's just like a fun, crazy guy. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, so now she has like a team of murderous miscreants who are going to help with her next project. And the next victim on her list is her old co-worker, Ethel Enid. I forget the name of this
librarian.
The librarian. But speaking of John Waters, she is played by legendary cult icon Mink Stole, who has appeared in every single John Waters movie from the beginning, including Serial Mom, in which she is hilarious. I can't recommend Serial Mom enough, Jameson. It's such a fun watch. And Mink Stole, she's always a fun flavor to add to anything. And yeah, she's just playing this nervous librarian. Now, Jameson, were you as delighted as I was to discover that we got two of the same kills in back-to-back movies? Because Mink Stole gets the exact same treatment as the mom from Witchery.
I think Witchery did it better.
Absolutely. There's like 13 years, like 20 years in between those two movies, and the effect is largely the same.
Yeah.
And I would agree that Witchery does it better, if only because Witchery is lit better.
100%. Everything
is lit like a movie.
Yeah, everything else in this movie is ripped with like the room lighting that came standard with wherever they're shooting.
Like, this is an independent film in 2010, so it's shot on digital. Witchery, for all of its faults, was shot on celluloid, so
it looks like a movie.
It looks better.
Yeah,
it's a bad-looking movie, but it looks better than this movie.
But the scene where the old lady gets her lips sewn together looked a lot better in that 30-year-old movie, whatever.
Yeah. Even though the effect is literally exactly the same. They made like false lips that they put over the actor's actual lips, and then they poked and regardless of what era it was, big props on both actresses who agreed to do that. I'd be nervous as hell.
That looks like a risky stunt.
Yeah, I'd be nervous that someone would slip or sneeze or something while they were doing it. So, good on them.
You know what would have been a nice, clever thing for this movie to do? As Debbie is, filming all these kills, she somehow orchestrates it over notable or recognizable kills from classic horror movies, classic B movies.
Something like
so,
that.
I mean, if you did Witchery, what's to stop you from doing another kill similar to, I don't know, the scene from Psycho or whatever?
She's a big fan of La Casa series.
Yeah.
Exactly. She's filming those.
Mm.
But again, going off of like her last victim, her reason for wanting Mink Stole dead is because she's genuinely concerned for Debbie because she hasn't shown up to the library, and she doesn't even like barge into the movie theater. She just goes to like the concession stand, talks to Mr. Twiggs for like a second, and hands her a note. And because of this, Debbie's all like, "She must die."
Oh, she was knocking on the door too loudly.
Too loud.
Oh,
and I get it. I get that the character is unhinged. And there's even humor in the sense that she's seen all these perceived slights that actually aren't slights at all, and she's just like a bad person. I get that she's a bad person. She's a murderer.
Yeah, she's not our main character here, but
for some reason it's not reading. It's like it doesn't work the way it should, because it's not like it's not heightened enough.
No, and the appeal of this is not that we have these unlikable characters that get their comeuppance. The point of this movie that I think Peaches Christ was going for was that, like, let's just get some fun slasher kills.
Let's just do some silly goofy nonsense.
Yeah, we're not intentionally making high art here. We're making something for, my friends in the midnight movie crowd.
I'm not making a movie to be taken seriously where two losers can sit in a recording booth and tear it apart piece by piece.
Speak for yourself.
I want to reiterate, Peaches Christ did not make this movie for us.
That's true.
But we watched it, and we're going to talk about it.
There is a part during the next sequence where, it's the unveiling of Deborah Tenise's latest vignette before the movie starts.
Yeah.
It's a blockbuster, line up around the corner, and a reporter interviews Steven, who's on a date with the popular girl, who's got like the massive target on the back of her neck.
Who inexplicably wants to go to like the midnight movie thing for reasons?
Yeah.
I guess she's into Steven. Unknown.
Let me circle back to that.
Yeah.
So the reporter asks Steven, what is it about Deborah's movies that you really like? And he just starts going on about like the authenticity of the art itself, how the actors seem very natural, how compared to like big budget horror movies, there's way more care and thought put into it. And as he's saying this, I could see the one gutter punk that's working for Deborah just roll his eyes. So is that the movie trying to take the own argument about these independent short films away from itself?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because based on what I know about Peaches Christ, these are the type of movies that she was making as a filmmaker. She makes these little... I mean, I haven't seen her short films, so I can't say, but like...
You just seen the longer version of one of her short films.
I've just seen the longer version of one of her short films, yeah, absolutely. But like, this is like the type of film... So she's taking the piss out of herself.
I can respect that.
As a lot of drag queens are wont to do.
Yeah, and for that... Okay, I'll give you props for that.
I'll give you a pass. I'll give you like the briefest of all passes for that.
So the pretty popular girl at school asks Steven to take her out to, Deborah? Oh, let's go to the movie theater. And in my mind, I'm thinking, is she trying to chase clout? But I think she might genuinely like him, and she's just projecting the popular girl persona.
Hard to say because she's barely a character.
Right.
We don't really know. It could be any reason. I think,
but because she's a preppy, pretty girl, she must die in this movie.
She must die. Well, I think that now we're the fourth victim in, and now Deborah has like a legitimate reason to kill someone because she starts talking shit about Deborah like just out of earshot.
Yeah.
She literally says her makeup is ugly, and that word gets back to Deborah, and Deborah's all like, "Oh, okay, well, I will murder her now, and she will be in my next movie." In film.
I'm not going to call it like a justifiable homicide, but in the eyes of this homicidal maniac, this is the justification.
Right. Yeah. And she throws together I'll give Debbie this. She throws together a theme very quickly because
within minutes of prep time, like there are 24-hour film festivals that don't like have the jump that this kind of movie does.
The popular girl goes into the bathroom to take a dump, complete with fart noise. I'll give Peaches Christ that. Smell that. It's always funny when pretty girls poop. I don't know what that says about me,
All
but yeah, and then Debbie bursts into the lavatory just as like the Scarlet Pimpernel or something. Like what was she?
No, I think that was like the Scarlet Letter she was trying to.
Oh right, okay, Scarlet something or other.
Yeah, because all of her films that she's making are spoofs of these vignettes are all based on like popular
literature.
domain that they can get the rights to.
Absolutely, she doesn't have to pay for anything.
Yeah. Classic bits of literature.
And she stabs the girl, and they drag her body up to the attic. And when Steven asks what happened to his date, the usher Adrian says like, she got into a cab. And she
as he's dumping buckets of blood onto the sidewalk, no questions asked whatsoever.
No, someone had a nosebleed. What are you gonna do? It's around this time that Mr. Twiggs goes up to the attic, and we find out that for some reason, Mink Stoll is still alive.
Mm-hmm.
They dragged her up to the attic where they're keeping the other bodies, but she's still alive. Her mouth is still sewn shut. She finally manages to get like the thread off of her lips, and she starts screaming out for help. And there's like this the briefest of scenes where her screams are going over the actual movie, and then there's like the briefest of moments where like no one is screaming on screen, but like her screams are still heard, and so they're all like, "Oh no, we're about to be found out." But all it comes to is Mr. Twiggs goes and just chops her head off, and I'm just sitting here wondering, like, the fuck didn't you do that earlier?
Yeah.
What purpose did you have for taking this
keeping
still
her
alive
around.
woman in your thing? All it would have happened was you would have gotten caught. Again, I don't know if Peaches thought everything out. This movie really felt like every take in this movie was the first one.
Oh, yeah.
I don't really know. I really don't know
For
how
sure.
many like reshoots they did for this.
Yeah. So now Steven's getting cornered in school by the principal and the teacher and the parents of the missing popular girl. Well, you're the problem kid. You're the
right.
You're the next Columbine waiting to happen.
You mentioned that Columbine was a thing that existed, so you are a terrorist.
Yeah.
You clearly are. I mean, he was literally like the last person to see her alive.
Well, no, they insist the usher was.
I mean, this is so dumb.
Well, then question the usher.
I mean, this is like a really dumb. I mean, whatever. We're complaining about dumb dialogue in like a drag queen movie. It's fine. Like they're aware of the fact that it's dumb.
Okay.
But she's all like, actually, the last person to see her alive was the usher, and her mom is all like, my daughter wouldn't know an usher. It's all like, he didn't say she knew her.
Yeah, her friend the usher. She said the usher.
He said he saw her. It's like a complete. But again, these characters are all idiots, and I'm nitpicking things that probably shouldn't be picked.
With the exception of the police officer,
who's the only smart character in this movie.
I'm quite surprised that Peaches Christ seems to know a lot about like how proper police procedure works when it comes to missing people. He knew exactly that. Like, well, I mean. Yeah. It's really, we got no evidence on this kid. It sounds like no crime has been committed.
Like every adult in this room is an absolute maniac, and this detective just comes into the room, and they're all like, "You need to arrest this kid," and he just very quietly,
what?
He just very quietly is like, "No, what? No, he didn't do it. There's no evidence. No, shut up."
Yeah. So Steven's like starting to get real suspicious of like, okay, well now too many people have been going missing around this movie theater. He tries to confront Deborah about it.
Also, not Sarah Silverman goes to get an interview with Debbie for the school paper. And when she's there, there's a setup earlier that we didn't mention.
She's going there to pose as a journalist for an article on self-hating women.
Yes,
it's like what the
she's gonna surprise her. Aha! It's gotcha journalism.
That's right.
Jameson, is what it is. Yes, there's an earlier scene we didn't mention where when Steven is waiting in line with the popular girl, this friend character. I'm sure she has a name. But she comes
Negative
by,
Nancy.
She just they just have like a conversation, and we note that the popular girl has a bejeweled cell phone that she mentions is actual real diamonds. And when this character is waiting for Debbie to come into the office to interview her, she sees the cell phone that they have been picking the diamonds off of them. And she puts two and two together, and she realizes, oh, this is what's happened to the missing girl. I'm in trouble. I need to get away. And she doesn't, and she gets captured by the baddies. And it's yet another character that they don't kill, that they just keep alive and in the back, because why not?
Sure.
And there's going to be a whole lot of those in the very next scene. because Stephen brings the police detective to the movie theater where Debbie is having her soup kitchen matinees, and she's inviting all the homeless around town for some soup and popcorn and to watch a movie, but she's really just doing
like casting.
She's casting, even though we never see this film. We never see the homeless person film, but we assume she made it.
Very good point. I mean, like later on in the movie, there are like a bunch of bodies tied up in the attic, but what she's planning on doing with them, I don't know. She is building towards like her first ever feature film, which is going to be like her biggest mass killing.
Yeah. I guess she only had that one vial of sleeping powder because it would make more sense to knock these people out. But no, they're just squirming around and tied up in the attic.
Mm-hmm.
Not a great plan.
Yeah. Please, the cop wants to go investigate the theater. Debbie says, "You better have a warrant, coppa," or whatever, because he's talking in an old timey Hollywood slang like that.
And then Steven's all like, "You're not going to go in there." And once again, the cop is all like, "No, I have to follow police. I need to go get a warrant. Mm-hmm. This is how this works. Steven. I need to do police work."
Outside of a movie, this is how things are done. You watch too many movies.
She's
kid.
all like, I agree with you. This is suspicious. Mm-hmm. I'm going to investigate it.
There are proper channels.
Exactly.
Red tape, as bad as it is, it exists for a reason. So, like, the next day, Debbie is interviewed on, like, some morning talk show, whatever. And at this point, I was just, okay, Steven's date has been killed, but he hasn't seen the movie about it yet.
Yeah.
But at this point, when she's showing a preview of her next film, that should be the scene where Steven says, like, hey, wait a second, that's the missing pretty girl.
Popular girl or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like even within, like, the dumb logic of this movie world, even Debbie probably realizes, well, I killed a popular girl and people actually... I killed someone who actually is missed. Mm-hmm. Probably shouldn't release this movie.
Yeah.
Probably should wait a little while before I release this movie because that would definitely implicate me. So who knows? We don't see what movie is shown on daytime television.
Yeah. All we know is that Cassandra Peterson wants to get out of the house. She wants to see what all these horror films that
Cassandra Peterson, goddamn, she's going to be a character in this movie.
Yeah, whether you want
it or not.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in more scenes. Mm-hmm. I would like to do something, please.
Peaches, you cast two, camp icons. And you give them, like, the most buttoned-down role. You give them one a boring mom and the other one a librarian role.
You give them very little to do.
Yeah, we get it. You can be the only fucking star quality power
diva, boss bitch
character.
Well, no, to be fair, she gave that role to Natasha Lyonne, who's taking it and running with it like a fucking, like she's on fire or whatever.
Sure.
So, yeah. But it's the evening of the big premiere. Mm. The theater is
packed to the gills.
Is packed to the gills.
Mm.
It's funny because there's like an earlier scene where Debbie is on stage and she's going like, "Oh, my father would have loved to see like an absolutely packed house." And you look at the crowd, it's all like, "I see some seats." It's like when Trump says he has like the biggest rallies, and you look at the footage, it's all like, there's definitely some seats where no one's in there.
There's no shots of the upper balcony I happen to notice.
And even in this scene where like it's the big premiere of the feature and like the theater is suspicious, it is definitely packed. You notice like the camera angles maybe don't show the entire theater. You kind of get like maybe she had like enough extras to fill most of the theater, and it's all like, all right, everyone on this side.
She just had like Peaches just like set up massive mirrors on the side of one wall.
Like if you watch the movie again and you really pay attention to it, you might notice like the same person, like the lady in the red shirt's over here, and then in the next scene she's on like the other opposite end.
Oh man, like the old school crowd effect from like those 90s shows. Oh boy. So at this premiere, there's
Gore and Peace.
Gore and Peace. Good title, I'll say. They are just giving away free murder punch because they poison all the punch.
Peaches Christ says like, "Oh, how Jonestown of you," and it's all like, you probably
another tragedy, another American tragedy.
Yes,
we get you.
Columbine jokes and Jonestown joke. Again, this
movie's got it all.
This is what drag queens do.
Yes. Yep.
But everyone gets like a little cup of punch, and
to use to have
Adrian
for their toast.
the usher is all like, "Take your cup, but don't drink it. We're all gonna drink it together." Just on
wink.
Really on the nose. And everyone who's filing into the movie is all like, "Sure, sounds like a good idea. I'm fine with this. This sounds good to me."
Just hold on to this. It's just going to get warmer and warmer or whatever.
It also has like the texture and color of liberal blood, but it's fine. We'll just hold on to these loose cups with no lids
Yeah.
the entire time.
Steven's going around to everyone in the audience saying, like, don't drink it, it's poison, don't drink it, it's poison.
And people are all like, "Oh, that's good. That's good. That's a good."
Dedicated to realism
nice,
here.
a nice little touch. Yes.
Until finally one of the friends of the murder pretty girl says, like, the only murder around here is you, loser. And look, you're here on a date with your mom. Let's all get drunk. And then everybody hands her their own cups of the poison.
I did like the fact that this popular girl stood up and was all like, the only murderer around here is you. And she does like a couple of burns at him. But then when she says, look, he's here with his mom, everyone in the audience erupts into laughter.
Mm-hmm.
That was funny. I did like that quite a bit. That everyone's all like, look, he came with his mom. What a loser.
Yeah. And then all the guys look at it like, damn, that's his mom?
Yeah, but yeah, this one popular girl is under the assumption that there must be alcohol in these cups because it's a toast or whatever. So she drinks 3 or 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a fun effect. This is something I forgot to mention earlier, but this is like a funny thing. I do think this is like a deliberate choice on behalf of Peaches Christ, where this character drinks like 4 or 5 cups of like the poison blood punch or whatever. It cuts away. When it cuts back, there's immediately all this makeup on her face.
All this puffy face and like oozing pus on her.
Because it takes her a while before she starts acting like she's poisoned too.
Nobody notices that something's wrong with this woman. She doesn't notice that there's anything wrong with her.
She stands up like her face is falling off and she's like, dude, shut the fuck up, man. And it's very funny because the same thing happened earlier when Debbie stabs her stepmom, where like it's one shot of the actress like looking at Natasha Lyonne. She's all like, you'll never be good. And then Natasha Lyonne stabs her in the neck with a pen. Cut back to her. There's immediately blood everywhere. And it's all like, okay, you missed a step.
Yeah.
But the effect is funny.
Didn't look that good in the edit, but whatever.
The effect is funny, and it did work out for me in that sense.
So everyone starts panicking. Debbie's there on the front of the stage with her camera,
She's
recording her master.
Exactly. Everyone in the audience is my new victim. This is the surprise. There is no movie.
You're in the movie.
You're the movie.
It's like fucking Mark Hamill in the comic book The Movie. You're a character, and you're a character.
Yeah, about the same quality.
Yeah.
You know what? This movie's a little better than comic book The Movie.
Yeah. They lock all the doors, so everyone's like trying to panic and getting their way out. At this point, corpses start falling out of the attic, which I was like, thank fuck they finally got around to that.
Okay. This is genuinely my favorite part of this movie, is that a large part of it, I really, really wanted to like this movie a lot more than I did, and I appreciated the ingenuity of some of the kills. Again, the lady getting both of her tits chopped off by the guillotine, again, very Herschel Gordon Lewis, very 1970s like exploitation thing. Adrian, the demonic usher, is menacing Peaches Christ. This is the moment where I thought Peaches was going to get it. And we can see that the bodies are starting to fall out of the bodies are literally hitting the floor. Someone said, let the bodies hit the floor. And they did. And the librarian, Mink Stoll's body, headless body, falls from the ceiling and it lands on top of Adrian, but her open neck hole falls on top of his head.
Yeah, it engulfs his upper body.
So it's like when Mr. Bean has the chicken on his head.
I was going to say Mr. Bean with the turkey on his head.
But it's like a woman. It's like a woman, and then he falls over, and that's the end of that character. A large part of my 1.5-star review of this movie comes from that.
Yeah.
I will give you this, Peaches Christ. I have never seen that in a movie before. That was fucking sick.
Yeah.
That was dope as hell.
That was awesome.
I like that a lot.
Full marks, no notes.
I mean, lots of notes.
Yeah,
we did an entire podcast where it's nothing but notes. But
on that
subject, well done. I like that a lot. That was good.
Yeah. People are running around screaming. Steven sees on the screen that Negative Nancy is tied up in the back. The 2 murder twins are going around threatening people with knives. And
Mr. Twiggs meets a very disappointing end where he's like pointing a knife at Steven's badly developed friends.
Right, yeah, whatever their names are.
And then one of them grabs a film canister, beats him over the head with it, and then just stabs him a bunch. And I'm all like, Mr. Twiggs met his end by, like, this minor character who I don't even know her name. Like, I think she's had, like, 4 lines. This is, like, our secondary antagonist or whatever.
Yeah.
So, like,
and
very disappointing
dispatched
end.
by, I don't know, the person who actually owns that theater.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But Steven gets his friend away from Debbie's clutches, but somehow Debbie manages to kidnap Cassandra Peterson.
Fuck, somehow it's
Somehow.
right.
I don't know how that happened.
I don't even think they filmed that scene, but yes.
There was a lot they didn't film, Jameson.
Somehow Elvira makes it backstage, and yeah, Natasha Lyonne's got her and dragging her to the rooftop of the building.
Yes, where a denouement takes place, and yes, and Debbie has Steven's mom with a knife to her throat.
Yeah, knife point. And
she's absolutely stark raving mad at this point. She's not making any sense, and she's reverting back to like early Debbie, where she's all like, "No, Daddy, blah blah blah."
Yeah. Steven's he unloads on her like, "Your father would be disappointed in you. You're not a filmmaker. You're a hack. Your father would have appreciated like the craftsmanship of filmmaking. You're just filming murder." And then Natasha just says, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy,
Daddy, I'm star quality, Daddy." Dude, top points to Natasha Lyonne. She's really great throughout all of this.
At this point, she lost me. But thankfully, it's like her last bit in the movie because Cassandra Peterson, who does fuck all throughout this movie, gets a hold of the knife and stabs Natasha Lyonne. And she falls off the building in a Hans Gruber-style shot.
So it goes on for very long. I feel like that's most of the film's budget is filming this slow-mo fall from Natasha Lyonne onto a spotlight.
I mean, before you told me like the entire background of Peaches Christ's amount of success in the San Francisco showbiz scene, I don't want to say film, but just in like probably knows people. I was going to remark that for a first-time director, like pretty good, like a lot of different shots, a lot of creative cinematography. I mean, I'm always going to compare people's first film to fucking Clerks, so it looks a little bit more well put together than Clerks.
Yeah. The difference is Clerks is a movie that a lot of people like. So yeah, Debbie is dead. Weird bit of pacing. The killer twins actually are the last to die. Our main villainess actually dies before her secondary henchman.
Your final battle.
Yeah.
They're the final girls.
Exactly. But yeah, everyone manages to get out. I think they set the building on fire, but also that comes to nothing.
Yeah, the owners of the Victoria Theaters like just nix. Absolutely not. You're not starting a fire.
No, you're not fucking burning our theater down. No, this is still operational.
Yeah,
but
clear out. We got a film fest in like 20 minutes.
Everyone clear out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're screening fucking Rocky Horror.
Yeah.
But
the cop draws his gun on the two girls and says like, "Well, you know how this ends. Like you're going back to jail." The twin girls look at each other, and then they stab each other. They don't stab themselves. They take turns hacking at each other.
It's easier to stab someone else than it is to stab yourself.
Sure. Yeah.
And then everyone's standing around. It's a bloodbath, and then our friend, like the reporter, the newscaster shows up, and he goes over to Steven and is like, "Steven, what do you think of all this?" And I'm just all like, What do you mean? What do you think of all this? So many people are dead, dude. Read the room.
But he says like, "Whoa, this would make quite a fascinating story, right?" And in a terribly, terribly hokey fashion, Steven just says
a
like,
little too meta. Yes.
Yeah, if someone made a movie about this, Debbie wouldn't be dead yet. I'm like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean, Peaches?
Well, it seems like it's set up for like Debbie to come back for like the final
like a jump scare,
like Scream or whatever. Yeah, but that doesn't happen. No, she's dead. She remains dead. And on the ever-growing list of missed opportunities in this movie, we have like this group of people who have escaped from the movie theater, including Peaches Christ herself. And like Steven's final line in this is all like, "Man, this was never a movie, and no one should ever make a movie out of it." Peaches, the thing to do at this point is to have the camera pan over to you.
And be like, "That's right."
And then have you go, or something. It's the easiest fucking joke, and I can't believe I have to explain it to you. But there we go.
Yeah.
And then the movie mercilessly ends. Is there anything we forgot to talk about?
Let's just go over the notes here.
They really seem to run Peter Jackson through the ringer when they're talking about, like film nerd stuff and whatever. And it's all like, "Oh, you probably like all those Peter Jackson movies." And it's like, it's 2010. He's like one of like the most successful, lauded filmmakers in history. If you're talking about like, if this were a period piece and you were talking about him before he made Lord of the Rings, yeah, he made trashy, bloody cult films.
Oh,
but like,
is that it? Is that he started out in trashy cult in indie films, and then he became, and then he he fucking turned his back on his roots? Is that what you're getting at, Peaches?
I don't know, whatever. I don't know. It's maybe it's like one of like those attitudes where it's all like, "Oh, only nerds like Lord of the Rings. I have a lot of queer nerd friends who love Lord of the Rings.
Exactly.
And would definitely have opinions on that.
Got to pick your battles here, Peaches. Yeah. One thing that I want to mention, when Adrian is first introduced, the soundtrack kicks into this weird California Dreamin' knockoff song.
I met her in the park. She was painting the trees. One look in her eyes, and she was
I didn't know what it
I don't know.
was.
He needs some introductory music. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, and the last thing I wanted to mention is the opening credits. Fairly stylized, very pulp movie poster
I
kind of
like them. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's lots of fake movie posters, both for the movies that Debbie screens within the film and for movies that we don't get to see. The ending credits, I let them run because there were a lot of fake movie posters.
Right.
I always enjoy that. Yeah. It's always fun to see. Clearly. I always appreciate an animated opening credits.
Oh yeah,
It's never a bad time for that. But there we go. All About Evil. Jameson, does this movie have a certain something, or is it just a whole lot of nothing?
I'd say that there's a ton of nothing into this. With that said, as someone who's made a couple of movies myself, I would have killed for one of my movies to kind of turn out looking like this.
Sure.
There seemed to have been like a lot more budget, a lot more room to flex their muscles, a lot of locations to it, got some names involved in it. Yeah, this seems like it would have been like an indie filmmaker's dream project. And the fact that they were making it with a very small circle in mind, I think would endear it to the midnight movie crowd. Why Peaches decided to sell it as a DVD or like market it in multiple theaters or just have it available wherever, I don't necessarily see why you would.
A big name like Natasha Lyonne to star in your movie. You might as well get that on streaming. You might as well get that out there for people to get eyes on.
Yeah, maybe that when you have names like that, you have no choice but to make it worth their while that you expand the audience for. But if you had just had some friends play the Natasha Lyonne and another friend play the librarian and the mom character, there would be no need to expand the audience for something like this. And I'm sure they would have been just fine and not have lost any sleep over it. There's a couple of things story-wise that work, but really don't. It's hard for me to elaborate on. I think it seemed like they had an axe to grind with a few of their kills. And I think if they went with more of a conventional horror movie format, I would have liked the movie a little bit more. But it just left a weird taste in my mouth.
I think the term that you have to bring up when you're discussing a movie like this, a very loaded term, a very loaded concept, you have to bring up the concept of camp.
Right.
And it's a hard thing to sort of define because lot of camp is sort of like ascribed to like a lot of different things. And I like things that are campy. Rocky Horror is campy. John Waters films are campy.
I like the Adam West Batman.
Absolutely. RuPaul's Drag Race is exceedingly campy. Movies we've covered on this podcast. Hamburger the Motion Picture is campy. Back by Midnight is kind of campy. The Evil Dead franchise is kind of campy. Less so the first one, but the sequels are definitely campy. Yeah. I think there's camp, and then there's crap. And then there's this movie, which is a new genre, which I am calling
Cramp.
Cramp. It's a Cramp classic. I think we said it all. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what our opinion is because Peaches Christ didn't make this movie for us.
Yeah.
She made it for her circle. And I will say, every time I log a movie on Letterboxd, there are people that I follow. I check out what their opinion on the movie is. And then I go through, the average rating for everyone who's logged it on Letterboxd. I'm definitely in the minority of people who didn't like this movie. This movie has fans. Yeah. People seem to like this.
All the power to them.
All the more power to them.
I have no doubt in my mind.
You're totally right for liking this. I'm not saying you're wrong.
And I have no doubt in my mind that Peaches Christ would be able to eviscerate us and put us down.
Oh, she would read us for filth. Are you kidding me?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have no doubt in my mind.
Who are we? We're not. You're a filmmaker, but I'm no one.
Yeah.
I know you directed a movie.
I have directed 3 movies.
There you go.
Yeah, but what took us...
You only directed one movie that I'm in, so by my account, you only directed one.
Okay, one and one short. Anyway, doesn't matter. It felt like I directed you into. No, I mean, it took us, 2 hours to break down this movie and quantify what we don't like about it. I'm sure Peaches Christ can tear us a new one in less than 10 seconds.
Oh, she could listen to like 20 seconds of
and
of
have
any,
our number,
of any
have our
podcast
fucking
that we
number.
recorded,
Yeah.
and would have like 5 hours on it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But more power to you, Peaches.
Yeah.
Make another movie.
Yeah, go for it.
Absolutely. Go,
you know what?
go
I would
for it,
probably, just for the hell of it, I'd probably check it out.
Check it out. Yeah, it sounds great. I love midnight movie shit.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
it's
I'd be
totally
right
great.
there with them. Yeah. And you know what? If I were friends with Peaches Christ, I'd probably be a lot more forgiving to this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I do want to add one thing and do something that we haven't really done in a while. I want to throw a recommendation. If you want to watch a great drag queen based horror movie, I would recommend checking out the Jem Gerard directed film Slay, which came out earlier.
That's a great title.
It's a great title.
Oh wow!
It came out earlier this year. It is a Tubi original. Tubi has started making their own movies.
Yep.
They've done a couple of them now. I watched this right after I watched All About Evil. It's really good.
Oh yeah.
It's it's basically From Dusk Till Dawn, but with drag queens.
Okay.
It's drag queens versus vampires.
Okay.
And it's really great. And the only negative thing I have to say about it is that it's a modern day horror film, so all of the blood is fucking CGI. Like we have like CGI bullet wounds, and it looks like garbage. I will give All About Evil this. The blood effects are much better in this because they're all done practically.
Sure.
But yeah, I highly recommend Slay. It's a very fun movie, and it's free on Tubi. So check that shit out. It's really great. But yeah, there we go. That's All About Evil.
And we covered Cassandra Peterson, Elvira herself. This movie's not really playing to her strengths.
No, but she's in it.
She's in it.
It's a movie that she's in.
There we go.
It's one of very few movies
check
that she's
box.
in. Checkmate.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And she's an absolute icon.
Absolutely.
And we absolutely stan her legend. And yeah, she just seems like a cool fucking lady.
Yeah.
And I'm glad. This was a great idea, Jameson. I'm glad you thought outside the box of Scream Queens because, we could have talked about anyone, but we talked about Elvira. What other opportunity?
A lot of fun
talking about Elvira?
Yeah, a lot of fun things to talk about with her.
Yeah.
Two very big fun
things.
Two
very big things. Yes, absolutely. We really didn't capitalize as much on talking about her boobs.
You know what?
This is Boob Corner.
If you watch that Elvira Mistress of the Dark movie, there are much more clever jokes in that movie about her sexuality. So
than we're gonna make.
Than we're ever gonna make.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
But that was All About Evil. If you like this episode, please check out our back catalog of episodes. If you go further back into the catalog, they are under the title of The Fuck Is This, which we have now eclipsed. But it's the same show. It's just us.
That's
we're
right.
We're just talking bullshit. We're just talking our bullshit.
That's right. Because you demanded it.
Because you demand it. You knock down our doors every day. You leave Fleeman bags of poop on our door, and inside it says, "Do more episodes." You demand it. We would like to thank Joel Flynn and Luke Schuss. We are back.
We're back, baby.
On Stream Studios for the first time this year. Maybe for the last time.
For the foreseeable future. Times are tough. But we're happy that Joel was able to get.
We'd like to thank Joel for being here. We'd also like to thank Joel for gifting us a DVD copy of Dr. Giggles.
Yeah!
Which
probably going to be displayed on my bookshelf.
For like over a year, whenever I'm texting with Joel, he'll usually throw in, it's like, have you seen Dr. Giggles yet?
You're watching Dr. Giggles yet?
So we're watching it for you.
That's
yes,
right.
That'll be a Halloween viewing. Absolutely. We'd like to thank Eddie Lamb for his fantastic theme music. You can follow us on all the social media, Facebook, Instagram, X. You can follow me on Letterboxd. I'm Cass Lesgard.
My name is Jameson Raptor. You can't follow me on Letterboxd, but you can check out my cartoons and all the movies that I made on my YouTube channel, Uptown Slim Jim. And I'll leave you all with the iconic words of Cassandra Peterson, a.k.a. Elvira, unpleasant dreams.